Hello everybody, my name is Craig Bennett and I'm the founder and owner of TechFuse Up, and today I am going to answer a really quick question with a somewhat detailed answer. Specifically, this is going to be talking about a little bit about Kerberos and RFCs and how does it take place in the bigger picture. Now, for those of you who don't know what Kerberos is, it's a security function. It's really useful. And it's highly used today, especially in the Windows networking environment. But anyways, let's jump into a personal advertisement, and that way you know how to support the channel, and you can help it grow a lot quicker and better than I can do just on my own. Thank you for sticking around during this quick personal advertisement, and if you want to help us out at TechFuse Up in the TechFuse Up YouTube channel, then there are several easy and quick ways to do it. First off, there is a fan fund on the YouTube channel itself. I'm not really going to talk too much about it. It's kind of a new feature. But if you want to check it out, then go ahead and click the top TechFuse and Help icon. And also that will take you to our channel itself where you can check out our other videos, subscribe, and you can also share our stuff. So if you want to help us out, the easiest and the quickest way to do it is simply just by subscribing, liking, commenting, and also more importantly, sharing the videos and just turn off the ad block as you're watching the videos and make sure the advertisements are allowed to go up. Now, other ways that you can help us out is on the bottom left. You can click on the PayPal button, and that will take you to our PayPal link where you can donate a one-time fee for the PayPal. On the right side is the Patreon, and that's a monthly thing, so if you want to donate monthly, then you can go there. In the middle is the Disney, which owns Maker Studio, and if you have a YouTube channel and want to get partnered up, then you can click that, and if you get accepted, then whatever Maker would get out of the cut, I actually get a little bit of that, and you still get to keep whatever revenue as before. But it also helps me out because whatever Maker Studio would get, I would get a little bit of that each and every time, and it helps me build up enough money to get labs and stuff rolling on. But anyways, let's take you back to whatever video that this is, and hopefully you enjoy it. Welcome back. Now, as far as things goes, this commenter, they just want to know how Kerberos relates to RFC, and in order to know how it relates, you need to know what RFC is. Now, RFC is known as Request for Comments, and or it's mostly known as RFC, so that's where you're going to really see RFC in. But it's a documentation that's made from the Internet Engineering Task Force, or known as IETF. These are the guys who make the standard for internet protocols. And the entire reason for this, just to put it in a nutshell, is to put everything in one language. A lot of people don't really recognize that computers are a lot like humans, and it's because in networking, it's basically like how we network, with some type of communication, sending information from one person to another, either by visual or by audio, or both. Well, for computers, they don't have two sources, they only have one source. So if everybody used a separate standard, then what would end up happening is it's like everybody having a separate language. And the basic sense I can give is, imagine you're in a given area and you're trying to communicate with someone and they're trying to with you. You have no visuals, you can't see them, they can't see you, they have no visual cue at all, but you can hear them, they can hear you perfectly fine. But the catch is they speak a completely different language that you never heard of and seen for you. And imagine how well that would go over when you're trying to communicate, especially something important, over to them, and that they really want to know. So as far as that goes, it's pretty much the same. It's pretty much the same with computers. They don't have two methods. They only have one method to communicate. And these protocols, specifically a standardization of these protocols and stuff, makes it where all software-wise understands each other. And that's important, because other words, you're going to have problems where say your browser is not doing certain things that it should, or it's doing a 180 from what it should do. Now, as an example, a real-world example I can give, it's Internet Explorer. So Internet Explorer is notorious for the worst internet browser there is out there. Unfortunately, many companies, especially government agencies, require it, but still it's known as the worst, especially for day-to-day personal use. So the things that replaced it, because these stayed up to date, is Chrome, Firefox, and several others, and they constantly stay up to date. Now, with this in mind, Microsoft actually has, or at least they're trying to, replace Internet Explorer with a new browser called Spartan. I imagine it's pretty much known as Internet Explorer for the ease of teaching people, but for the most part, this is a brand new browser from top to bottom, and a lot of people won't really recognize it at first, but looking at the back end, looking at the code, it's completely different, and it's even more superior than Chrome and Firefox at this time, because it's using experimental stuff that probably will become the standard soon. So that's very important to note when it comes to that. If you're going to have a company, specifically a company like dealing with Firefox or Chrome or something like that, you need to know, for security reasons, is your browser up to date, and if you're making a browser is up to date, so you got more customers, and you got to keep a lot of that stuff in mind, especially when you're dealing with software and security. Now, as far as Kerberos, this is a security. This is a network authentication service, as it says here. It does have a RFC, but its information is within here. In fact, you can look up all RFCs within here, and I do have a video already on RFCs in general, but and I'll have a link to that, mostly because the question is on that video, but also it's, you know, I relate to this one. But Kerberos is 4120, at least at this time it's 4120. And when you search for it, you should come up with something similar. Now, keep in mind I'm using different contrasts, so yours might look a little bit different. So, as far as goes, we have 4120, as seen here. We can see the files, and you can click on the number to see the file. But you can see the authors, the release dates, what it's about on title, what it replaces, and some updates on it. Not all these are making this obsolete. And current status, which is very, very important, because it is a proposed standard. So looking at the obsolete one, it is dated back to 1993. This version, this Kerberos, is 2005, and you can also see that it says obsolete by, even more history on the stuff, its authors, and if you wanted more information, you can actually go in and click on this which will lead you to an entire, I wouldn't say it's worthwhile, but it's an entire thing of reading. And you got to keep in mind, someone actually did write this stuff, and it was for a reason. If not, several people wrote it. Because the important thing to note with this is in order for these protocols and standards to come out, they got to be solid, at least at that time. So one of the biggest things you're going to get is try to go to the spots. You're going to get a section of it, usually the first section, giving you a pretty detailed description on what the protocol is about. Now, usually within the first couple sentences, it kind of answers any questions that you have, unless if you're actually making some software or something. Usually you won't really go through this stuff at all, and for the most part, unless if you're in school, and even then, you probably won't be tested ever on this stuff. Again, unless if you're making a, which is very, very important for this, an operating system or something around that point. In fact, that's one of the reasons why operating systems are so difficult to make, especially nowadays. Then you even get down to things like error codes and other things, and name types and stuff. So try to get down to error codes, and we can see all the error codes here and what it means right there. So that's also pretty important. So you might have seen some error codes kind of like this, especially if you dealt with networking once in a while. And this will actually tell you what the error code's about if you got access to this. And that's very, 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 very important, because if you know which RFC to look at, and if you're developing something or trying to do troubleshooting, then this will pretty much tell you spot on what it's about. Because again, someone went through this, and if not a couple people, someone went through this, and they tried to make this as solid as possible, at least for the time it was made. And for this, it was made in 2005. Now, you're probably going to have some updates on some of the stuff. Like this has a extension updates right here. We have a negotiation extension. It gives you a little bit, it's basically a nutshell what this is about. And then if you go and click on this right here, it takes you to this, and it tells you a bit about it, the company who made it, some stuff, and I guess this one's not that long. Like I said, it has a introduction at the top telling you what it's generally about, this particularly, and then it gives you more information as you go down, which is pretty important. But as far as Kerberos, what is it, to get a little bit more detailed? Now, as far as the stuff, it's again a network authentication protocol. It authenticates once to a trusted system, and you don't need to re-authenticate, and it saves a lot of time and problems. Trust me, it saves a lot of problems. Mutual authentication, the client and the server, so it makes it more secure, and it protects against man-in-the-middle attacks or replay attacks. Now, the interesting thing is this standard, Kerberos, was made back in the 1980s, and it's a standard. I think it was Windows 2000. Windows first got it, and Kerberos is made in such a way that it's compatible with multiple operating systems, so you don't have to worry about a problem of, again, like I was talking about earlier, where one thing has one language and another thing has a completely different language, and you're going to get a problem. In fact, that's kind of why executable files don't work on Linux and Macs natively, at least. And I think it's DMG files don't work on Windows natively. Some versions of Windows. I think there is a way to get it working natively on some versions. But for the most part, that's a huge thing to keep in mind, is it's compatible with multiple operating systems. Now this works with 3 different things. It has a KDC, a key distributing center, and this just basically vouches user identifications. This, in case we are doing networking, this is a little bit much for most people, but this usually runs on TCP and UDP 88s, so again, networking. It has a authentication service, and then it does a ticket granting service. If one of those is not working, then it won't allow. So as far as how even more so this works, just as if you're doing this on your network, basically what would end up happening is it does the authentication, you do a login request, the key distribution center knows what password it should look for. Basically, the login request, it has the password and stuff in there, but it's timestamped, which is very important to note, because when the key distribution center, and by the way, I got some of this highlighted, which covers a little bit of this, not hardly any of it, but if the login request, if it sees that it's within the 5-minute window, then it's okay. If it doesn't, it throws it out. And if everything matches, it'll send back a ticket, granted ticket. And the TGT, sorry about that, it includes the client name, IP address, timestamp, validation for how many hours, and it's encrypted in itself. Now, the encryption, this is a very important part. The encryption, you can't decrypt unless if you're on the KDC. The KDC, since it made the encryption, basically whenever you do whatever with a third party on the same network, the ticket granted ticket will be sent back to the KDC for authentication, and since the KDC encrypted it, did not give out a public key or anything like that to decrypt it, and everything like that. So what happens is the KDC is the only thing that can decrypt it directly. Obviously, you can use some decryptors and go about that way, but you got to remember there is a time limit, and 10 hours might sound like a long time to a lot of people, but it's not when you're talking about decryption. And that's your max, so max amount of time that it can give on a TGT is 10 hours. So that's very, very important. Now, as for the second step of the authentication, after 5 minutes goes by, the like I said, there's a 5-minute window period for the first one. The thing sends out another TGT, and if the first one's invalid for whatever reason, and also send out what's called a TGS, which is ticket grant service. And this holds the encryption key for communication between the client and the TGS, and it's encrypted with the user's password and the hash itself. And that's very, very important because you can decrypt that. In fact, that one's made to be decrypted. So that's very important. Now, let's say that you want to communicate something else on a network, and you've never talked to it before, it never talked to you before, and whatever. So what would be happening is your computer would send to the TGS a copy of the TGG and the TGS with a timestamp on it, because it encrypted the TGT on, and it knows your computer's hash. It will actually decrypt both of them and say this is real or this isn't. Now, if both of them are real and both of them look good, then what will end up happening is you will get on your computer or whatever device a service session key to use for the application, and it's encrypted with the TGS. Now, as far as the that goes, this is something that you can actually see. Now, the next thing that you'll get is known as a service ticket key, service ticket, and basically this is just information between the let's call it a server X and the KDC, and those are the only ones who actually know about it and can decrypt it. So when you get it, you obviously can't decrypt it, but it's necessary for you to have it in order to communicate with the server X. Then what happens is the client, and sorry I don't have any visuals, the client sends the service key to the application server and another timestamp authenticator encrypted with the session key. Finally, the server X, or whatever you're trying to connect into, the application decrypts it, the server X decrypts it, the service key, and basically, since the KDC and the server X are the only ones who actually know how to do this, it shows that it's real, and then it takes a lot of everything else that you send it and to make sure that everything is in order before it allows full communication. One of the important things is the timestamp with the encryption, and this is meant to prevent replay hacks, and also it's meant to stop pretty much any man-in-the-middle attacks. Now, realistically, where would you actually see this? Active Directory environments are pretty much the only thing that comes to my mind. There's probably some others, but for the most part, if you're on the networking end, you, besides setting things up and making sure everything's good, this is pretty stable. You really won't be playing with this that much. It's very, very important to know for school and for certifications and for other things. Especially, it's very, very even more important to know about Kerberos. Not necessarily how exactly it works, unless you're doing some troubleshooting, which is a huge thing, but it's mostly knowing it's there, so if there's a major update or a flaw is found or something like that, when you hear Kerberos, you know, hey, I need to pay attention to this. That's a huge thing with across the board with a lot of things in IT, is it's more knowing that it's there, so when you hear something on the news, your brain gets aside and say, I know a little bit about that, where have I heard that from? And then you remember, oh, that's very important, that deals with security, and you start paying attention and say, oh, I need to update to the newest version, or there's a security flaw, I need to find a way to patch that while things are being worked out, yada yada yada. It's very important. Now, again, if you're doing if you're doing an architectural or something like that, then it's obviously important for you to know the stuff also. But as far as the user end, what would they see? Nothing much besides a simple login and stuff like that. They really won't see anything. They'll try to log into their systems, and maybe the market department probably try to go and get something off of a server, and the graphics department probably get something off of a server. But in the meantime, they'll have to log in, and that's it. I mean, it's not much that they have to do. It's pretty straightforward. They log in, and 9 times out of 10, they'll probably just log in whenever they log into their computer for first day in the morning or whatever it may be. That's it. There's nothing else for them to do besides going to wherever the directory is for the file they need, or service, and getting it or doing whatever that's needed. So the user won't really know this is all happening on the back end, and it's not necessary for them to know. It's very necessary for the CIO, for the architects, some of the IT part, not all of them, and things of that nature. It's not secret. So if you want to ask your own company, hey, do we use Kerberos, and the guy actually knows, or girl actually knows, then they're probably like, yeah or no. But other than that, it's a very useful. In fact, it's probably the most useful tool when it comes to networking authentication. But anyways, this has been Craig Bennett, founder and owner of Tech Reviews Nope. Please feel free to leave a like, subscribe, and share. And please feel free to check out my Patreon campaign, my PayPal donations, my all my other links, and everything else. Now, as far as things goes, if you enjoyed this, please feel free to check out my other videos. But anyways, it's been Craig Bennett, founder and owner of Snoop, and hope you have a great day.